Well, cheers. Welcome to the Bathroom Break Podcast. I'm your host, Rab himself, and today my guest is London May, actor, musician, and goth king, really.
Thanks, goth prince.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
goth prince.
Wait, who's the king?
I think we know who the king is.
Okay. Oh, man. So welcome to the Bathroom Break Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, dude.
Thanks for coming over to my lair.
Yeah, letting us in your world here. I love there's just there's dead heads on spears and
Well, I just want to create the
goblets.
right intimidating environment, so
Yeah.
you know what you're up against.
Yeah.
Those were the last guys who interviewed me.
Yeah, I was definitely intimidated when the door opened and smoke billows out. But more intimidated.
Dragon's
I think.
breath.
Yeah, more intimidated by the what's the character's name in your movie Brutal Realty?
The summoner.
Yeah, the Summoner. Oh, man.
Summoner. Ah!
Dude, that was amazing.
Thanks, man.
I got to watch it the other night, and dude, it was like gory but hilarious, and there was like so many kind of emotions and things happening throughout the whole time of watching it. And there was times where I was literally wiping tears away from laughing so hard.
Really? Well, that's great.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we aimed for. It works on a lot of different levels.
Yeah. So how did you get it like into acting? Because I know like you like I kind of learned a little bit about you in terms of like that was what started your path in creativity was acting, and then went into music, and then acting, and it was like simultaneously doing both, I think. So
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I wasn't the most well-behaved kid growing up, and I think my parents were desperate to find something for me to channel that energy and that creativity in, and they knew that I was like obsessed with the 1977 King Kong movie with Jeff Bridges, and I just talked about Jeff Bridges all the time. And they're like, "Well, he's an actor, he's not really an adventurer, and he doesn't really go to Skull Island, but he's an actor and he pretends that he does that." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Oh, so you thought that he just went there?
I knew it was an actor, and when I think they thought that I was obsessed with him as an actor, whereas I was more obsessed with him as an adventurer and explorer, and the excitement of that.
Yeah.
But I thought that it would be, I'd be closer to that goal of going to Skull Island if I maybe became an actor. And they tried to hook me up with a theater group in Baltimore, and one of them, I think I met with them and it didn't quite work out, and I auditioned for the Baltimore School for the Arts, that didn't work out, and then I eventually ended up working with a woman named Deary Berger, who was kind of the mother of children's theater in Baltimore. She wrote a couple books and had a theater company, and I was in that for a while, and that was my first experience getting on stage in front of people.
Oh, wow. How old were you then?
I was maybe 12.
Okay, yeah.
About 12 years old.
Yeah, cool.
So I didn't start, right out of the cradle, but that kind of got me, in that zone of performing. Yeah. And not being, I'm shy in general, but once I hit the stage, I realized that I have a responsibility that I have to actually, I have to put a lot out. Yeah. I can be reserved in person, but on stage, I got to be more outgoing, and
awesome.
That kind of helped to channel some of that energy. And then I got into music, and then, that was all she wrote for about 30 years.
Yeah, for real. Okay, so you sort of put acting on the back shelf once music really took over, or you were kind of doing both?
No, it was like, I was in high school. I was promoting shows. I had a job at Taco Bell. I was playing in a band, and being, we would go out of town on the weekends. I was in 10th grade.
Oh shit!
And
so you were like kind of touring.
Yeah.
Oh damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there just wasn't enough time for it.
Yeah.
And I got the same satisfaction out of being in a band as I did being an actor. But when I came into being in a band, like the acting thing had really kind of prepped me for being on stage. And when you're in a high school band, you've got a lot of people who have never been on stage before.
Right.
And so I was always the guy in the background trying to get the people in the foreground to really put on a show, because that's kind of what we did in the theater.
Yeah.
And so there was always a little bit of, a little bit of a battle right there, because I was just, at 14, I was ready to get out there and like play these shows and like really perform.
Yeah.
And some of the guys that I played in bands with were pretty shy.
Right, especially at that age.
Yeah, at that age, exactly.
You're like, I got a pimple. I don't want to, But so drumming was the first thing you did, or did you pick up a guitar? Like, how did you get into the music?
Well, I actually did pick up a guitar first.
Okay.
Because that was what I saw. There was more features in like magazines about guitar players than there were drummers. I mean, for every interview with every 50 interviews with Pete Townsend, there'd be, a little mention or a little article about Keith Moon, even though, he was well known. And so I tried the guitar first, and it was one of those things where I saw the guitar at the shop that rented instruments, and I said, I'll take that guitar, because that's the guitar that Pete Townsend plays.
Yeah.
This Sunburst Les Paul, and it was a copy, of course. It was, probably Jones brand or something. And
hey, Mom, I want that $5,000 guitar. Well,
I think we'll start over here in the 99 cents section. I got the kids menu guitar.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I saw him sliding across the stage, and the kids are all right. In the end of Won't Get Fooled Again. And I was like, I'm going to be a guitar player. And I'm going to play that guitar, and I'm going to be Pete Townsend, be windmilling all night. And my hands are going to bleed, because I had this picture on my wall of him holding his guitar with his hands bleeding.
Oh, shit,
and I just thought that was so awesome.
Right. Yeah.
And, I did not know how to tune a guitar. I think they gave me a book with it, like an ancient dusty chord book. Yeah. At the music store. And with cobwebs on it, it was probably written, 100 years ago, and it just didn't make sense for me. So I had the guitar for a summer, and then we ended up giving the guitar back, because I just couldn't get it to sound right. And I would look at pictures, and I would try to mimic the chords.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is if your guitar's not in tune, it doesn't matter where your fingers are.
Right.
And I didn't realize that. There were so many things that I was not, and I didn't go to a teacher. I didn't, I was punk rock before punk rock. I didn't need a teacher.
Yeah.
I just needed, this Rolling Stone magazine, this Trouser Press magazine, and these album covers to look at, and that's all I need is to be a guitar player.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, that's cool. So then after you gave that back, then you decided to start trying drums? Is that...
Yeah, my sister it was 8th grade, and we had just started school that year, and my sister came home one day with a flute, and she's like, I'm going to be in the school band. And she was my younger sister, so there was a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're going to be in the band? Let me see if I can even the score with this. And so the next day I went and applied to play drums in the school band.
Yeah.
And I came home, and I thought I'm going to get a drum set. And instead, I came home with a fucking rubber practice pad and a pair of like sticks that were like chopsticks, and another ancient book.
Yeah, not rock and roll.
Not rock and roll. And I had a little snare drum and this little rubber pad and these little sticks.
Little
and it was
drummer
just like
boy
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. But that was the seed, that was the seed. So I thank my sister for like somehow inspiring this competition that got me to pick up drums just out of spite.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, I always thought about playing the drums. It was just a thing that was available. And then it did sort of have a natural thing about it, even though I was just on a little rubber pad. But I knew very early on, maybe within the first couple lessons that they had at school, that I like this, but I didn't like it like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I like what I'm tasting. Yeah, I like what I'm tasting,
yeah.
But I don't like it prepared this way.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man, I have never been able to keep a beat on the drums ever. Like, I'll strum a guitar a little bit and play a little bit like that, but as soon as I start to try to play a drum, like my foot always wants to go with the hand, you know, like how,
Well,
and so
I'm glad it's not easy for you, because it's not easy for me. And I could, it's a challenge for me every time I pick up the sticks.
dude, you'll have to give me a little lesson.
Yeah, I think I don't want to embarrass myself. I'm also, a pretty impatient teacher, so hopefully I don't.
Okay, well then
I
I'll
don't
get
scream at
screamed and
you.
yelled at. I'm
But
expecting
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
the summoner will come out and,
Yes.
and rip my head off. But no, I think that would be fun, man. That would be cool.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Great. Okay. We want to make sure you got the proper position here. All right, you're holding the sticks right. This is called match grip.
What is this thing? The drum?
That's called traditional grip.
Okay.
But that's match grip, because both
This feels
sticks,
more right.
Yeah. Well, it's more primitive. It's more. It is more natural that way.
Primitive makes sense.
Primitive
for
makes
me.
sense. All right. And then hit your kick drum. Like, do a sound check.
Sound check.
Sound check. Kick drum.
So do you like stomp down, or do you is your heel on the ground when you do it?
Heel up.
Heel
And
up.
I do kind of kick down with it.
Okay.
There's a little bounce to it, and I try not to let the beater stay on the kick drum. Yes,
Okay.
let it fly
Yeah.
back, so it
Cool.
lets the drum kind of resonate a little bit. Okay, so kick drum, snare drum. You're going to play the snare drum with the left hand.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Good.
Okay, rack 1, rack 2, floor tom, hi-hats. Good.
Is it this or
crash? Yeah, that's it. That's the hi-hat. Good.
Then this
crash.
is
Crash 1. Crash 2. Ride cymbal. And then effect cymbal. China. Hit it up here. Yeah. So.
Okay, so let me try that one more.
Say sound check's over. We'll see you at the show.
All right, we'll see you at the show.
Yeah. Oh, then they say whole kit. So you do a fill around the whole kit.
Oh, tasty little fill.
Yeah, tasty little fill. Yeah. Let's see what you got. Yeah.
Wait, so why is this? I'm doing this wrong. I have my foot on it.
It's either open or closed. Here, that's sound. That's tasty.
Real
That's
tasty.
tasty. That's very saucy right there. And so the basic beats are gonna incorporate the snare drum, the kick drum, and the hi-hat.
Okay.
So we're gonna not worry about fills right now. This
Yeah.
is for fills and for tribal stuff.
I like it. We'll start it out how your parents started you out.
Yeah,
Just one. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Snare drum, and this is really the heart and soul of the drum kit.
Okay.
So if you've got something going here, everything else is just icing.
Okay.
So the easiest thing is just to go kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. Start
Okay.
with that. Okay, and now we're going to add the hi-hat in. And this is where stuff gets weird, okay? Because this is where the independence comes in.
Yeah.
Is because against this, you're going to play
Oh man.
1, 2, 3, 4. Now the thing is, you really have to, and it's okay if it's awkward, and you kind of have to detach, like imagine this arm is not connected. This arm, but you've skateboarded, you can ride a bike, you can drive a car, you can do a couple different things at the same time. So it just takes a little while. So this is going to be kind of has a mind of its own. Boom. Boom.
See, that's my arm does
but it takes a little while.
It resisted, dude.
Go back to just kick and snare. Just going 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3,
Okay.
4. Just go back to that.
Oh, whoops. Okay. All right. So let me see.
over 10,000 hours of practice.
Okay. So
This
you're
is-
gonna,
the
you're gonna
first
check
15
back
minutes,
after
I'm gonna
10
check-
hours?
yeah.
Yeah, 10,000 hours.
Go for a drum solo.
Okay.
Go for it. Here you go. Ready?
Hell yes. So then when you're playing drums and did you started forming bands aside from the school band stuff? Or?
Yeah, we might have done a couple school concerts, maybe one at the end of the year, and it really was I don't even remember the song that we did, but it was something that there was, a couple stanzas and then some kid went shh with the cymbals and that was it.
Yeah.
But I think at that point I had begged my parents to like help me start getting a drum set, and they were kind of in this idea that we're not going to buy you a whole drum set because that's a big investment.
Yeah.
So we'll see if you're really serious about this. So they would buy me one piece at a time of a drum set.
Okay.
So
That
I
makes
think I
sense.
had a snare drum and then I got a bass drum.
Yeah.
And until I could show a little bit of proficiency at those two, then I would get like a little rack tom and a little cymbal, and
wow.
it built
Yeah.
from there. But every piece of the drum set was different, was from like another drum
That's
set.
awesome.
And so it was
Yeah.
really a pretty hodgepodge setup. Yeah, it was like a mosaic drum set.
Yeah.
And I think I had started going to shows. I mean, it happened very quickly. I mean, by 1981, this is maybe a year later.
Yeah.
Maybe a year later, I was playing with some of the guys from my high school, and they would come over, and they were guys from like, one guy was from like the jazz band, and there was a couple guys who were like pretty decent.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, let's go over to the punk kid's house and let's jam out with him. And they came once and they never came back. And so I realized like they were so far out of my league. I'm sure they were reading like sheet music and stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was just like, bam. Now I want to be Keith Moon. Instead of it transferred from Pete Townsend to Keith Moon.
Yeah.
And I said they came once and never came back, but there was a couple punk kids who would come over and they would happily just
hang out,
make noise and hang out. And it was like, oh, okay, this is my tribe,
Yeah.
I mean, my very, very, very first band was just me playing drums and this singer kid. And it was just a two-piece band with drums and vocals.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, just drums and vocals.
Punk as hell.
Yeah, and because we didn't have anybody else, and so he would sing and I would play drums. God, I wish I had those tapes. That was really wild. It was very avant-garde. And then there was this kind of local band in town called Trud, which everybody had talked about. I think they had played like one show.
Yeah.
And oh no, who did I play with before that? I played in this band called Rat Patrol, who actually went, a year into playing drums, I was in the studio.
Damn.
With a band.
Yeah.
Recording a 7-inch.
Wow. That's pretty quick.
And you can tell. You can tell. It's like I released one of the songs on a compilation record that I did a couple years ago. And as much as it's fun and it's cute, it really starts the record off with it doesn't sound great, and if people are going, wow, this is, maybe it's an inspiration because you go, wow, that's where he started, he's come a long way from there.
I think that is huge when that happens, like, because I think people do feel like, oh, he was just naturally talented forever and it just immediately clicked for him, so I should give it up. But I think when people can see the evolution of what happens throughout your drumming or someone else's guitar playing or, someone else's acting or whatever it is, like that evolution is inspiring because you go, damn, okay, shit, this person that I looked way up to started there and then they got here.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that because the record did not sell very well, and I always attributed it to like I should not have put that on the record.
Yeah,
because it was a real, it really challenged my ego to say this is not great.
Oh yeah,
but it is part of my history.
Right, but
good or bad.
Like I feel like
thanks,
that's so
thanks
good,
for
though.
giving me that encouragement because I really look back and go, boy, that's a terrible way to start a record.
But the thing is, like, because then I think that's really good for an artist personally too, because it's humbling in some ways.
Absolutely.
So then the ego doesn't run off immediately. So then you're like humbled by that and having to learn from that, and then you get better from that. I think that if you if you didn't have that, then it's like, then if everything is always good like that, then what is to make you feel like you need to push yourself? Then you get kind of stuck. Maybe you get complacent and you don't go further into that next level where you can have that reminder. Like I know for me, like if I could relate this and not to make it lame, but I can relate this to my sobriety. Like when I first got sober, like I was such a mess, and was afraid to even do it. And then when I look back now, you go, if I never put myself in that uncomfortable position to try it somebody else's way and to do something like that, I would never get to the life that I'm at now. And I have a great life as a result of that. But in the beginning, I was too afraid and I would push it off and never want to go do it, never want to try because it was like, whatever. And I'm a mess. And then just, I think putting yourself out there and being vulnerable to that, whether it be in art or just self-discovery or growth like that, I feel like that's huge, to be willing to do that. And try
thanks.
that.
And I think about it, that the songs that I chose for this compilation, this kind of like, I don't know, maybe not a greatest hits compilation, but in an anthology, was that I really had to get other people's opinions on stuff because what I thought were great drumming songs that showed off my drumming were not actually the best songs that I had done in those bands. And so instead of trying to showcase, this is a great little bit that I did here, they're like, that's not the best song. If you want to like present that band that you played with and you've got X amount of songs, you should put the best song, not the best drumming.
Wow.
And I just realized, like, gulp.
Yeah.
Like some of these songs, they don't deserve the shitty drumming that I gave them, but I didn't know any better, And the songs that I really thought I was ripping, were not the ones that people remembered. And so I put the songs on there that people thought were the best songs instead of the songs that showcased me as a drummer.
So you're saying that you
never know. I'm not a good critic. I want stuff that shows me off in the best light, and whereas it's a collaborative effort.
Absolutely. And sometimes less is more on those songs, and then that you're actually playing to the song, and it's not highlighting you, but it's the song. It is serving the song.
It serves the song, exactly. And everything, if you serve the higher purpose as a group, the group moves forward. Instead of having just one energy that's just kind of trying to show itself off. Those are not the
huge,
those are not the things that people remember.
Yeah.
They remember the energy of the whole band or the whole cast.
Yeah.
The movie is doing really well and it's picking up some awards. I'm not getting any best actor awards, but the movie is getting awards. And boy, is that like kind of a mind fuck because, you want it, you want to shine, but then you go, man, any award is great. Any award is great.
That's such a huge lesson, I feel like, in that. And when I think about like you're saying, Brutal Realty Inc., your movie that you're working right now. And then also just thinking about bands that I've known, friends of mine and all that. If you had the mentality of not like, let me shine, but let's move the whole collective forward. Because, I mean, it's like a cliche that being in a band is like being married, and then and ultimately going to get divorced, and it's always going to be egos clashing and that stuff. But I think that mindset of, if you're able to do that, if you're able to humble yourself and not have yourself be the shining star of it and say what is best for the collective, that's huge. And
well, I don't do it all the time. Let me say, yeah. I mean, it's like once in a while I get that kind of epiphany that it was like, wow, this is good for everybody, and what's good for everybody is better than what's good for me.
Yeah.
But man, you could talk to 100 people who know me and say that London is full of shit.
Well, no,
he's
but
all about himself.
Right, but it's not not saying that that's something you live by all the time. Saying that's something that we can all aspire to.
Absolutely,
live by.
absolutely.
Because none of us are capable of doing that. I think that it's human nature to say me, me, me.
Yeah.
But to be aware of it, like you said, having that moment of clarity from time to time and say, hey, let's apply that there. Shit, no one's capable of doing that all the time. If they were, I mean, even Gandhi wasn't,
right.
You know? So, but bringing it back to the movie is the same thing. Like when you're acting in those scenes, sometimes it's not necessarily going to be your scene, but to be able to support whoever's moment it is huge, and it's selfless to be able to do that, to allow, because each one of us wants to be like, no, let me be the, and
letting somebody else shine, and lifting them up and giving them the foundation where they can do their best. It's good for everything. It really, making people feel that they can be genuine and authentic, and yeah, I mean, that's really my role, hopefully these days, more and more with music, and certainly with acting, is that it is a team effort.
Yeah, cool. Well, I wanted to hear through the music stuff, and then I really want to dive into the filmmaking process, because for me, like, that's what I do, and that's
thanks, man.
And not that I don't love music, I love music, but I want to hear about that journey for you from the music too. But then I want to really get into the filmmaking process, because that's where I can nerd out. And but so when you're in these smaller bands and you started playing these shows in 10th grade, you're leaving and going to these other places, like. I heard you say that some of your inspiration was the Who. Did it shift to like an Iron Maiden and like did it shift to other bands at that time that started getting like heavier than just the rock? And then that's what sort of, because what you said, 81 you started playing. Punk was like kind of the big thing. Like, were you Sex Pistols or like? Some of the
I would say I was into. I mean, I went from listening to like bubblegum rock and the Who to the Clash, and the first U2 record.
Okay.
A lot of David Bowie, a lot of Adam and the Ants.
Yeah.
And then I was skateboarding a lot. And I think you guys can all relate to that.
Yeah.
I was skateboarding a lot, and of course, you meet a bunch of skaters, and they start giving you cassette tapes. And they gave me a tape of like Black Flag and Minor Threat and the Misfits.
Hell yeah.
And it was fucking game over for listening to the radio.
Yeah.
It was all about listening to cassette tapes and I remember hearing Minor Threat for the first time and thinking they were from a different planet. And somebody said, no, they're from Washington. They're 60 minutes away.
Damn.
We can go see them.
Yeah.
I remember going to see Minor Threat.
Damn.
In 81. Minor Threat came to Baltimore in 81, and I think it was 81 or 82. Might have been 82. And anyway, that is where my taste really shifted into faster music and more aggressive music.
Yeah.
And first time I heard the Misfits, just blew my mind.
Hell
like
yeah.
went straight to like Castle Danzig, and I've never left.
Right.
You know, It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
boom,
yeah.
You know, and just skateboarding and singing those songs. And then I started going to shows and seeing all these bands play.
Yeah.
And it was just being able to, you know, you'd see a picture in a magazine of, you know, a band playing at an arena, you know, and then you could actually listen to a record and go see a band, and I could watch them as far away as we're speaking.
Yeah.
You know, and I learned
Hell yeah.
so much. My music classes were going to shows.
Yeah.
You know, I learned how to play by going to shows.
Nice. Because I was going to ask, did that start to influence the style that you were playing at that point?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I just would sit as close to the stage as possible and watch the drummer.
Yeah. Damn, that's awesome. Okay, so what led to, I mean, we all know that you were in Samhain, so what led to you connecting with Danzig and like getting involved there? Like, how did you meet him, or what? Or
Well, the story goes, and I get asked this a lot, and I wish I had a new twist on it. But basically, I was a really annoying kid who got his phone number,
okay,
and
Damn.
under the guise. I mean, it's true. I mean, the reason I got his phone number is because I was legitimately putting on shows in Baltimore.
yeah,
I was 15. I think
Oh,
it
you
started
were
when I
like
was 15 or 16.
booking shows.
Booking shows.
Oh, okay.
Booking Slayer.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
damn.
booking
Okay.
Slayer.
Shit.
Booking 45 Grave. Booking the Circle Jerks. Booking
Hell yeah.
most bands who came through Baltimore in the early days. I booked.
Yeah.
This older dude that I hung out with, he had a warehouse, or he lived in this loft space, and he was like, "Yeah, we can put on shows here." You know, it was in a rundown part of the city. Nobody fucked with us, and
Yeah.
we were kind of had this free reign to just, if we could get bands to come through, and bands would come and they'd play New York and they'd play DC. But in the meantime, they might have a couple days off where they had no shows. And so
Yeah.
we would get these bands, we get TSOL on a Tuesday night.
Nice.
You know,
Yeah.
and they would play for the door, they'd play for whatever, you know, there wasn't this hard, fast, you know, guarantee and, you know, a rider and all that kind of stuff and dressing rooms and shit. They were, back then it was great. People were just happy to play, you know, instead of having an off night, you know, so they'd come and play Baltimore. And so I got connected through Glenn when the Misfits came to Baltimore. My first band, Trud, was supposed to open for them. The show never happened, but the Misfits came down anyway. And I got to see the Misfits the week before and meet them, and then hang out when they came to Baltimore for that show that didn't happen, which is a tragedy. I still have the flyer from the show, and
man.
people showed up, but
Yeah.
the guy who owned the warehouse never showed up. So there was
That's why it didn't happen? Oh, damn.
So we, about 30 kids and the Misfits and their van, sat in front of this club all night.
Ah, dude.
Yeah, waiting for this guy to show up who never showed up. And so, and I mean, there's a big chain on the door, so we couldn't get in. And so,
Cut the bolt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, a
yeah,
couple
yeah.
people started, you know, trying to come up with different ideas of where else could we put the show on. And so we drove around Baltimore, like a caravan of us drove around Baltimore trying to find an alternative place to put the show on.
Damn.
And by like 1 o'clock in the morning, the Misfits were like, "We're going home."
Shit.
You know.
Damn, if you would have found a spot, that would have been like the most legendary show that ever happened.
Absolutely. It's nice to have the flyer, and it's
Yeah.
nice to have had that story. You know, it's funny. I'm sure you talk with a lot of people, and you've had these experiences. Sometimes it's the shows that didn't happen, or it's the shows that nobody was at, are the ones that people talk about the most.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because that seems to kind of bring the community and the fans together more than just like, I saw them at the stadium, like with 20,000 other people.
Yeah.
You know, do you remember all these little details about it? You know,
Yeah.
I remember the details about shows that I played where there was 3 people there more than I remember 3,000 people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it becomes part of the legend.
yeah,
Really.
yeah. And you're just, because it's not so routine, you're picking up on lots of different things that are firing all these synapses, you know, that I think make it make that mark on your memory a lot more for
Absolutely.
not only in the band but also as a fan,
Yeah. Absolutely. So you meet him there, and then when time comes that he's doing another project, then
Exactly.
you became
then
available,
I had then my band Reptile House opened for Samhain a few times.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
And so that I don't think Glenn really paid attention to us, but we wanted to get Samhain in Baltimore, and so the guy he kind of gave me his contacts. He was like, okay, here's the guy who would put on the Misfits show in Baltimore that never happened.
Yeah.
Glenn was like, I prefer not to work with that guy anymore.
Right.
If you want us to ever come back to Baltimore, I'm going to need to work with somebody different.
Yeah.
And so
makes sense.
he kind of handed over the
Reins.
the reins of putting on shows in Baltimore, and he gave me his contact sheet, and Glenn's number was on there. And I was like,
yeah.
Ooh,
There we go.
ooh. And I thought it would be kind of a simple transaction where I could just call him up and book a show, and that would have been great. But he was really set on challenging me as a promoter to actually guarantee him like a real chunk of money.
Yeah, I get it though.
Yeah,
I mean, they came
especially
out,
they had been burned before.
Yeah.
And the show that the Misfits had played in Baltimore the year before that, they played at this place called the Marble Bar. A huge fight broke out during the show, and he hadn't forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Like while they were playing, I don't know, for some reason there were some people, there was real hostility against the Misfits, and I guess when they played in DC there was some problems because DC was very like purist hardcore and t-shirt and jeans and skateboards, and the Misfits came on with all their outfits and their sort of razzmatazz, and that they and they had a real fuck you attitude, and so they didn't jibe well in DC, and when they played Baltimore for the first time, Jerry got hit in the face with a beer can, with like a full can of beer.
Oh, shit.
And Googie jumped from behind the drum set and started to fight with the guy, and it just turned into a melee, So they had that experience, and then they had the experience with the show not happening, and so Glenn was like, I'm not coming to Baltimore. And I was like, please come to Baltimore. I'm the new guy on the block.
Yeah.
I love your band. I love Samhain. What can I do to make this happen? And he's like, I want $500.
Yeah.
And back then,
that was
if you looked at inflation, $500, for Baltimore was like $50,000.
Yeah,
it was so outrageous.
Yeah,
it was so outrageous. I was like, but it challenged me. I was like, wow. Not this weekend, not next weekend, but I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. And so it gave me, so every couple months, I was able to call Glenn and say, I got an update for you. I'd be like, what? And I'd be like, we just had a show and I could give you 300. And he's like, no, 500.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm working on
strong.
it. I'm staying strong, and I would just keep calling him. And why we talked about the show and about the guarantee and everything, we would chat a bit,
Yeah.
And at one point I asked him for help on a term paper I was writing for high school. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's probably still at my house in Baltimore.
Yeah.
But I credit him as a lycanthropy expert.
Okay.
Because I did this term paper and I somehow involved werewolves in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, who knows more about werewolves than Glenn Danzig?
Yeah.
So
lycanthropy is
werewolves, is man turned into wolf.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
And
damn.
so
Just learned
yeah.
that.
So lycanthropy was the fancy term of like, I love werewolves.
Yeah.
But to make it sound official, he was this
God, that's
expert on
amazing.
lycanthropy, and so he was happy to do it. And I got an A on the paper, which was rad.
Yeah, you better have.
Yeah. If I only had that paper, I will look for it the next time I'm at my parents' house.
Yeah.
And long story short, I was able to bring them to Baltimore, in 1985, and when I paid him, he was shocked. He looked at me like, you really did it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, of course I did it.
Pulled a lot of strings.
I pulled a lot of. I mean, we hustled and hustled and hustled. The venue changed, and it was a really great night. And I paid him, and then a couple months later, the Reptile House record came out, and I sent him a copy of it, and then I followed up with him. Did you get the record? And he's like, yeah, I got the record. I haven't heard it yet, but Steve left the band. Would you like to come up, and try out?
All right.
And I was like, sure, but we were weeks away from leaving on the Reptile House tour.
Yeah.
Which I had also booked. I booked, from the payphone at high school. In the lobby at my high school, I was able to book a U.S. tour.
God, that's awesome. Damn,
I couldn't use my home phone because we were using these stolen credit card numbers for the long distance.
Oh yeah.
So I was always told, if you do it from home, they'll trace the call. So I always had to make these calls from a payphone. Yeah. And so if somebody called back, I'd be walking down the hallway in between, and I'd see the payphone ring, and I'd be like, "Don't pick it up! It's for me! It's for me!" And
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that it would just be so simple to say, all right, these calls are going to venues. Who's in a band in the high school? Get them.
Oh my gosh.
It was but back then I feel like you had the freedom to it wouldn't be so quick to get caught doing that, but damn.
Paranoid every time. And the numbers would expire. You'd have like 3 or 4 numbers, and you'd just every week one would cancel it. Yeah. And so if somebody called me back, it was on their dime. So you didn't want to miss a call, somebody calling you back.
Yeah. Damn, that's so amazing.
Yeah. So I had like between like 11:30, like lunch break was like 11:30 to like 12:15, and that was kind of like my office time. And it was right in front of the fucking principal's office, the one fucking
so
payphone.
Yeah.
And they'd always look out of the office and look at me, and I'd be like, I'd have a little notebook, and I'd be like, school,
getting some work done.
Just getting some work done, yeah. And so I.
And at that time, did you look like did you have long hair, punk rock?
No. I was in a parochial boys. I went to a couple different high schools, just because of. It was tough. I mean, I got beat up a lot, and I got threatened a lot for having like a mohawk, and being punk rock, and just being, being a little punk kid, was pretty rough in public schools. And then finally, the last 2 years of high school, I was able to transfer to this Catholic boys' school out in the county, which was a lot safer. I mean, still like jocks and rednecks were out there, but it wasn't
as crazy.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was going to get fucking knifed.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't being chased by rednecks.
Baltimore can get a little rough.
Baltimore, yeah. And it was in the 80s. It was, I gotten jumped a couple times, and I said I had gotten just the daily fucking threats of just walking home and people throwing shit at you. Yeah. So it was a reprieve to go to the school, but I had to wear like a coat and tie.
Yeah.
Cut your and shoes. And cut my hair. My hair was dyed. I don't know. I think my senior year, I had like this weird orange hair because I tried to like bleach it. Yeah. with peroxide, and this shit doesn't fucking work. Yeah, I did not look like Billy Idol. I look like a fucking fool. I look like had a real. I do have a picture of me in high school, and it just looks. It looks ridiculous. And so I went up that weekend and auditioned. I took the train up. I took this little suitcase, like a little old suitcase with some drum stuff in it, and I don't know why, but of all the shit that I took with me on that audition, I took my drum throne, my little stool. Yeah. Like there's gonna be a drum stool there, but I was like, I need my drum throne. Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah. But I lugged that up on a train to New York. That was
probably a good look though when he saw. He's like, huh?
What the fuck? Yeah, he came and picked me up at Grand Central Station. Glenn picked me up in his mom's car at Grand Central Station. And then the next time I came up, I took the bus and I got off on the wrong fucking stop.
Oh, shit.
And I ended up being so fucking far away, and he came to like New Brunswick to pick me up, which is like an hour away, because I had just been like, I was so nervous. I was like, okay, Jersey is Jersey. I'll just get off at the first Jersey stop. Jersey, you know, and it was like I was fucking so far away, and I called him. He's like, where are you? I said, I'm on like exit 2A, and he's like, we're at exit 17A.
Yeah.
You know,
they're like,
that's where Lodi is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, fuck. You know, he's like, fine, I'll come and get you. And
damn. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he came and got me, and I did well enough at the audition that they offered me the job. And then I came home and I told my band, and they were so bummed out, you know, because that had been something I'd been doing for years. And this was...
Yeah. So Samhain was like, you were going to have to not go on that tour.
No, I did the tour. Glenn actually pushed me to do the tour.
Okay, cool.
He's like, you set the tour up. You should do it. You made a commitment to your friends. You made a commitment to the band. That's what we do.
Yeah,
you stick to your awesome. You keep your promises.
Yeah.
You know,
awesome.
I want you to go on that tour. I want you to go on that tour, and it'll make you better for our band if you already have that under your belt.
Yeah.
I think he knew it was going to suck. So
Yeah.
I needed to have that. I needed to really,
feel
roll
that.
around in the dirt before I could kind of come and hang out with them.
Yeah.
He wanted me to have that experience. So I thought that was...
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was kind of him.
Yeah.
And I would send him little... postcards from the road, like, don't forget about me, I'll be home in 3 weeks. And I mean, I think I moved up to New Jersey within a month of coming home from that Reptile House tour.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I lived with him for a while until I got my own place.
Yeah. And then did you guys start recording an album?
Immediately.
Or
Immediately.
were you on the road right away?
No,
okay.
Immediately started working on that record.
Yeah.
I mean, it was... I don't think that we played... I think I played a couple old songs at the audition, but as soon as I came back from tour, it was working on new stuff. And we would... he played all the instruments, or he would show us what he wanted us to do on guitar. Damien, this is what you do. And Erie, this is how the bass goes. And London, here's how the drums go.
Yeah.
And he would show us our parts, and we would kind of muddle through it, and then we would go and record.
Yeah.
And it was so fast, and the turnover between rehearsing the song and recording was hours.
Yeah.
And I would scribble notes down, and I didn't understand the structure of the songs. I didn't understand his timing, because we weren't hearing songs in their, entirety and quite. I mean, like, we knew it starts here and it ends here, and there's some changes in between. But I had come from a band that had worked stuff out through jamming for months. I mean, we only had 10 or 12 songs after 3 years.
Yeah.
And this was doing a song, 1 or 2 songs a day, with Samhain.
Yeah.
And if you listen to November Coming Fire, it's pretty unusual. I mean, if you're into punk rock and hardcore and rock and roll, I mean, I was really into Samhain, but I never really thought about how weird some of the strong structures were, and how the stanzas and the measures go, And so I would just count by cymbal crashes. I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, roll and change. And then he'd give me the thumbs up, and I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I love just watching your face, because you're
it
like,
really was. Are you sure? And he'd be like, that's right. And then
Yeah.
he'd be like, and you're going to play this beat, and you're going to wait for the guitar, and then you're going to change to that beat. And I'd just be sitting there just going, okay, I'm playing the beat. When is the guitar going to change? That's the guitar change. And sometimes I'd catch it, and sometimes I wouldn't, because I wasn't, the way he was counting was not the way that I was used to.
Right.
Now it's only with experience. I mean, he had been writing his own songs, since the early to mid 70s. So he had a very intuitive way of writing,
Yeah.
I mean, put it this way. Try to learn a Misfits song. You think it's easy. Try to learn a Ramones song. You go, it's easy. It's just this, that, and the other thing. And then you really break it down and you play it the way it's supposed to be played. It's a little tricky.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and that's pretty amazing that like he knew exactly what he wanted and trusted that in himself, that this is what I want. And then everybody's sort of confused. But then as you learn it and get it, then you're like, then it clicks.
It didn't click for a while. It didn't click until I finally heard a couple rough mixes of the entire songs. Once he sang on the song, I understood, oh, okay, that's why we're playing it this length. Because he's writing with lyrics in mind as well. Yeah. And he's like, the change is going to come on this line, but without the line, without his lyrics, you're kind of anticipating something that you can't hear.
Yeah, so it's an awkward timing.
It's an awkward timing, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I was talking to somebody else about this recently, how it was stressful and it wasn't, it seemed unorthodox, but maybe, and this is another way that I'll get twisted and I'll go like, well, that's not my best drumming. It's totally not my best drumming. But there was something about that environment that created performances that people still talk about.
Yeah.
Because it did have this kind of uneasiness to it, and I was never comfortable playing those songs. And maybe that gives the whole thing this kind of weird, lurchy energy that kind of bubbles a little bit, instead of everybody like, yeah, I got this, you know, tasty fills. It's none of that. Tasty, you know what I'm saying? Like when everybody like in the groove.
Tasty fills.
Nobody was in the groove. Nobody was feeling it. We were all just kind of like trying not to like get yelled at.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But so it creates a certain vibe,
an energy,
a tension that translates way better than me like playing my, you know, tasty fills. Yeah. You know, nobody was interested in that, you know? And so whenever I go back to those songs, you know, when we've done these reunions, I always try to like put some tasty fills in there, you know? And he's always like, stop that shit. No. And I get transported right back, like, right back to 17. And being like, there is only one way to play this stuff, and it's the way that you played it when you were 17. And it is just going to sound rough and caveman and primitive, but that's the way it works. Stop trying to like show that you're a better drummer, because nobody cares.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
That's so huge too, because I would think that about like my friend's band CKY, they like I would tour with them a lot and be on the road with them, and then I would, you know, I'd be hearing some of the rough mixes of things when they're making new songs, and I personally would be like, keep it like that. Don't make it. Don't like you know, make it really polished and all that. Like, and as it would get more polished, I'm like, I don't like it as much as I liked it when it was like raw like that. And there's some level, because I think in the beginning their songs were very raw, and then they started to get more polished because they became better musicians as the time went. And it was like, and I still like the newer stuff, but for some reason that rawness was like, yeah, that's the fucking gritty feeling that you're looking for. And it would just, the more polished part. So I totally could relate to as a listener to what that's like, to go, nah, I like that rawness. I don't want it to be all tasty fills in there, you know. I want that rawness of it. So,
I really, you know, had to come to terms with like, that's not what I have to serve the song.
Right.
And serving the song is regressing to a point of just, you know, playing primitively, you know, and really just, you know, I said, just trying to like transport back to those days. That's what the songs need. They don't need me, you know, 35 years later, I'm a little better drummer, let me show you my licks. You know, he would just look at me and just be like, and I would just be like, I get it, I understand. Never doing that again. Got it. You know.
Let me show you what I know.
No, I got it. Exactly. Got it. I'll take that note. Thank you.
Yeah, that's funny. So you in the musical part of the journey, part of this, you also play with Tiger Army and did other stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And other bands, and I mean, you had a long career as a drummer with multiple bands, right? So like what was that like? What was like kind of the touring process like in terms of with all of it? Like, were you on the road for a large part of life?
Not as much as you would think.
Okay.
Because I would either do a tour with the band and then not, and then leave the band for one reason or another. It was not my goal in life to play with so many bands. I would have preferred to have just been in one band, my whole life.
Yeah.
That just wasn't. That's just not how it worked out.
Is that like when you think like playing in a band for your life? Is that? Let me ask, and if this is not the right thing to ask, but like, is that looking back because? Did you at some point feel like when you started playing with Samhain, was the thought like this might last for a weekend? You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Did you at that point in time, did you have a thought like, oh, I want to do this forever, or was it?
Yeah, every band.
Okay.
Yeah, every band.
Yeah,
I wanted to do it forever.
Yeah,
every band I wanted to like do, 10 records with and tour and just that would be my stable band.
Okay.
But
I just wondered because I've sometimes heard some musicians go, we never thought that would last. Like we thought.
I mean, when I think of playing in a band, I think like that's my commitment and that's where I want to stick with and that's what I want to do. And then things change from that attitude. I mean, I look back and I can't believe we're still talking about some of these bands. It blows my mind. I didn't think that they would have the impact that they did. I just strictly did things because I liked them. Whether or not anybody else did, I wasn't. Whether they would be popular. I was only interested in pleasing my inner, my soul. I wanted to only play stuff that I was into.
I feel like that's the best way. I feel like that's what leads to good things. I mean, I personally did the CKY videos before Jackass and then Viva La Bam and that. And as and not to trash Viva La Bam, but as it became more produced and more this like bubblegummy thing that MTV wanted, it was not nearly as fun as CKY was. CKY's videos were so fun for me because it was like, this is hilarious to me. And this is hilarious to my friends. Not, oh, this is what we think that the lawyer thinks is okay so that we can whatever, so I think there is something to be said for just staying true to yourself and doing that because that's what works the best. That's what people enjoy is going, yo, you're staying true to what you want to do. And then the minute the minute it gets co-opted and the minute it starts to kind of get diluted,
contrived
sort of thing. Yeah. So that's really awesome. So you stay true to what it is and you're playing what you're psyched on. And it just kind of led to this long.
Yeah. Career. And I would love to have had longer stints in most of these bands. Sometimes I wish I had shorter stints in these bands, I mean, sometimes it was a job that I enjoyed, but it's usually personalities. It's usually personalities that
can be challenging.
Challenging, maybe the way that I was raised, being, I'm usually the youngest guy in the band. I'm usually the new guy in the band, And
and that's
tough.
Dynamic.
That's always going to be kind of a
hey guys, take it easy.
Because you're always you don't get the inside jokes, and you're not. You're kind of what's the word, hazed a bit. And I think at some point I can't figure it out. I mean, and I'm playing in bands right now, and I still love it, but I'm still as frustrated, and it's just, it never ends. It never ends.
But like you said, maybe some of that's that good kind of anxious energy that helps with the performance.
I really think the records that people still talk about are records that I made. Records that people still talk about that I made are records that were done with a certain amount of tension. Because that creates a different kind of energy, And I think either I get to the point where I go, the tension's not worth it, or they get to the point where they go, the tension's not worth it. We just want to have a good time and play our songs. And go on tour and just and I'm just the kind of personality who's always, is never quite comfortable. I always want to push myself or push a band, or practice more. And I'm just, I'm not a good time guy. I'm a work guy.
Yeah, and I can relate to that too, because there is some level of that being needed, because if it's just this good time thing all the time, then nothing gets accomplished.
Yeah, really. Or it gets accomplished, but it's just not, it doesn't quite have the teeth on it.
Yeah.
So
you're still playing actively,
yeah,
and doing that, but what led you, like, because when you were young, you were doing the acting stuff, and you said, like, when you found music, you kind of went full bore into the music. So what led you to get back into the acting? Like, what at what point were you just like, you know what, I kind of want to find this other outlet? Like, how did that sort of take place?
Well, in 2010, I auditioned just by a fluke for this Ron Howard show. These girls at work were like, hey, they're looking for somebody to fit this role. You'd be great in it. And I was like, oh, sure. I think I sent a letter in, and they said, yeah, we'd like to meet you. And I came back to work, and I was like, hey, they fucking wrote me back. They want to meet me. And they were like, wow, you should really do this. And I was like they're going to pick me, it was like,
so it was like for fun,
and I just had never thought about it. I'd done videos with bands, maybe little bit things here and there, but I never really thought about, acting as like really getting seriously back into it. But anyway, I did end up getting cast in this Ron Howard show.
Oh, wow.
And I thought I sucked, and I didn't get, things had changed in 35 years as far as acting goes, and I was really I walked in very confident, like I've got a little bit of experience. I've been in a band, I know how these things go. And they were sticking cameras in my face, and I was like, wow. And I felt really, I really got humbled really quick, and then they cast the show. I did the pilot, and then they cast the show, and they didn't ask me back. Okay. I did not get cast in the actual show.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I kind of liked that, but I know that I need a lot of work. And so I went back to acting school. And then once I got into acting school, I was like, whoa, oh, I remember this. This feels good. This feels, it feels natural. I got a lot of work to do, but it definitely started to kind of fire the neurons and stuff. And I think that there was, and I'm always just looking to stay busy. I'm like a really nervous shark. Like I have to stay moving, and I have to do stuff, as much as I cannot wait. I don't know about you, but I love my downtime. But a couple hours into downtime, I start to get my brain starts to get going, and I'm like, get up and do some shit, or you're going to you're going to bore a fucking hole into this couch. It's not, you think you want to sit back and like watch some movies and read some books and catch up on some shit. You're not going to get anything done because you're just going to spin. Yeah,
I'm the same way. It's like just like a ball of energy, and then I need to recharge, and then if I stay too long on the recharge, then it's a problem.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you doing this podcast, you guys here doing this, I understand it's, I cannot wait to do shit like this because I know it's a reprieve from the fucking peanut gallery.
Yeah. I got to get out of that.
I got to get out of that and to do stuff, and to, the best takeaway is just meeting fucking people.
Absolutely.
And connecting
That's
with
what's
people.
been so rad about this, just getting to sit down with you and hear your story too, and each story that I get to hear sitting with people, it's like, man, it's amazing because Rick and I walk away from it every time going, damn, that was a fun day. Who knew that we were going to learn about ice baths, or who knew we were going to learn how to play drums, or who like it's all those kind of cool things that are exciting to sit down with people. So you basically got bit by the acting bug again.
Yeah.
And then like when I kind of wanted to hear, so with that, you did an audition and then they called you back? Or
I did a couple auditions.
Okay.
I did a couple auditions, and then, I mean, now the crazy thing is now that I'm really in it, you know, and I go to auditions all the time and I don't get the job.
Yeah.
The fact that I got a fucking job out of the fucking gate.
That's what I'm thinking.
Unfucking real. I mean, I was, and they paid me, and it was just, it was shot down at this prison, this maximum security prison down in Palm Desert and stuff. And it was just, it was wicked. And I thought it was, but you know, it's also really, really spoiled me because I thought, well, I'm in. Here we go. Yeah. You know, and I got an agent, you know, and I had all this stuff going on, and like the phone really didn't ring, you know. I mean, I got little bits and parts here and there. It's kind of like when you're the new kid on the block. I definitely felt that now that I'm not the new kid on the block, I'm passed over, which is, I understand that. But when I was the new guy with the way that I look, I seemed to book all the time. Yeah. You know, and now I made Brutal Realty to stay busy. Yeah. I made Brutal Realty just like I made a Punk Records. I got my friends together and I said, we got no money, but we got a great song or a great script. Yeah. We got some great energy here. Why don't we put on a show? Why don't we make a movie? Yeah. And that's how Brutal Realty happened.
And that's awesome because I feel like I feel like in this day and age it is sort of punk rock in a sense. I have other friends that are actors too, and they'll be like trudging through this audition process, and I kept thinking like, dude, why don't you just like film it yourself? I have a camera. We have this. We have that. Like, just do it instead of like
waiting for somebody else.
You know, it's like, how do you ever get to practice if you're not just out doing it? And then I go and watch your movie, and it's freaking hilarious, man, and like gory and all the things together. But it was so funny, and I'm like, yeah, if you just sat around and didn't do that, then I wouldn't have gotten to enjoy watching that. You know, like,
well, thanks,
like,
man.
Like, I feel like it would be a bummer to think that you don't like it's awesome that you're a self-starter, that you go up and just do it, because so much creative stuff would not see the light of day if you just sat back and listened to the person that was like, you know what, we're good, we don't need you, whatever. You know, like, I feel like that would just stop you from, you know, moving forward and doing the next thing. And just it's rad to just get up and do it yourself.
Well, thanks, man. I think it comes from that you know, that punk rock ethic of we feel strongly about something and we want to share it with people, and we're not going to wait for a record company to call. We're not going to wait for the big club in town to book us. We're going to put out our own record. We're going to put our own show on. Yeah. And you take a big risk because it's all your time and it's all your investment. And it's a roll of the dice. It was a roll of the dice when I was in 10th grade. And I booked, who was it? It was like Fang or something. And somebody knocked over the fucking soundboard.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
And I was working at Taco Bell, and I had to pay for the soundboard, you know? And I was like, oh, man. Oh, my God. You know,
how long would that take?
It took forever. Yeah. But then Slayer came to town, and I booked Slayer. And you know what Slayer did? I brought them a fucking box of money from the show. It was the biggest show we'd ever had in Baltimore at that time. Damn, yeah. Bought them a box of money. I'll never fucking forget. Fucking Tom took 2 stacks of money, and he gave me the rest.
Damn.
And he said, that's for you. What? And I was like,
he's awesome.
It's all for you.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's all for you. This is what we made.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what did you make? And I'm like, I'd never make money on shows.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, tonight you did.
Damn.
And I took that money and I put it back into the PA, and we had to get like some improvements done on the club to get it to pass fire code, you know?
Dude, that's
and I just
amazing.
think of that. And when I remember when I talked to Carrie and Tom, like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and I mentioned it to him, and I was like, guys, you did something, you know, that changed my life and changed the scene in Baltimore. And he's like, I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I never forgot it. I never forgot it, know. And so that was...
That's really cool.
But you don't expect that,
Yeah.
And that's the fact that we're talking about the movie and that it's doing really well is a shock, because we were cracking up. I didn't know that you'd crack up.
Yeah. No, dude.
Or like we would play a certain kind of music that we were like, well, we enjoy this. I don't know if anybody else will.
Yeah.
And then people are like, yeah, that rules. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Man. Well, and I don't know what I can give away, but there's few moments throughout where like that, like the one, I was literally wiping away tears from laughing so hard that like, I don't know if I could say the dove part, but
the what part?
The dove part.
Oh,
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Man, that was we just made that shit
Can I talk
up.
about it or no? Or wait on. Yeah.
Don't give it away,
Yeah.
but I will tell you that we shot that. I mean, in one day, we had one day of shooting where we had
I did not see it coming, and that's
we had
good.
dogs, we had doves, we had children, we had blood, like everything that they say don't ever do, unless you've got a huge cast, a big budget, and an open timeline. Don't fuck with any of this stuff, because if it goes south, it's going to ruin the day. And we got really, really lucky. But so we brought two of everything. We didn't bring two kids, but we had two dogs. We had two birds. Because the first bird did not did not participate.
Yes.
He had an attitude. The first bird had an attitude.
There was so many levels of that part that like I can't break it down now. You got to wait to see it and when you see it. But there was so many levels for me. There was like 20 reasons why I was dying laughing in that moment. And it just is so good. But you're saying that you made that for nothing?
Yeah, I want to say we made it, out of my pocket and Eric's pocket. We paid for everything.
Dude, it looks awesome. And,
thank you.
You guys did a great job.
A lot of favors.
On basically shoestring budget.
Yeah, a lot of favors and a lot of, it really goes back to the strength of the script, kind of like a good song.
Yeah.
If you have a good song, you're going to, it's attractive, and all we had to put the cast and crew together was that's a 12-page script that this 19-year-old kid named Joseph Mueller had written for us.
Oh, wow.
And that was just, it was magic. And it was when people, I knew what people's day rates were.
Yeah.
We knew how much it cost to rent this shit.
Yeah.
And they would be like, well, have fun with your little job, but this is my rate. And I'd be like, well, would you read this first?
Yeah.
And they would read it and they'd be like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's make this happen. So much of it was done by luck. I mean, I made all the props. I did the makeup.
Damn. Okay. That was a bunch of.
Yeah. My sister came on as the associate producer and just worked her ass off.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you just how fortunate we got. But I think it all created the energy about that film. Is we had maybe 4 or 5 shooting days, and when you would get somebody once you got somebody hooked on the script, you'd be like, hey, do you know any bars we could shoot at?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, well, let me ask around. And you just kind of spiderweb out from that idea. And you can make shit happen. I mean, I wouldn't, now when we move on to the feature, I want to make sure people are paid appropriately, because people really did, work within our budget, and we're so grateful because the movie does look very, very high quality, and we're very grateful for that.
Yeah, and first I wanted to say that it's such a testament to what the script is and what the project is, because myself, I work in camera on a bunch of different things. Sometimes bigger scripted shows, sometimes reality type shows and things like that. And you know, from time to time, I'll come across some projects that are less than desirable, and so it's funny because that's what I do for a living. But then, if something fun like that comes along, like I myself, I'm willing to go out and do and work on it for free to help out, just because it's exciting, because it's something interesting, it's fun, it's creative, and it's all that. And sometimes at work you don't necessarily get that. So it's really cool to see that like the creative community come together to help everybody for the greater good kind of feel for a project that they're excited about, you know. And that there's a lot to be said for that, for the script being good. Like, well, hey, we'll give our efforts to that. You know, the day rates are high and all that on their normal stuff, but on something that you're excited about, hey, we're willing to put that in, put it in the swag.
Yeah, everybody wants to be part of something cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, not everybody, but it was nice to see people respond to it. And I really that the indie film community is really punk rock.
Yeah.
You know, like if I wanted to put together a band and go make a record, I don't think I'd be able to go to like a recording studio and just be like, hey, we've got some good songs, would you give us a good rate? They might knock off, like, you know, they might give you a bro deal, but still it wouldn't be that much.
Yeah.
But this indie film community, and especially the horror community, is like, boom, they change all the rules if they're into it.
Yeah.
You know, it's very punk rock, and it's really nice to find a new tribe of people who do work because they love it, you know, more than the music community these days.
Yeah,
you know, I think the music community is, you know, is kind of corporate in a way, but the indie filmmaking scene, as I'm sure you know, is like, it's still really bloodthirsty for great content, and
Absolutely.
People are still like, yeah, let's make this happen.
Yeah.
I got to stay all night. Sure.
Yeah.
What do we got to do? Whereas, you know, if you had hired a horn section, they'd be like, actually, we're 3 minutes over, so, but we're not finished. Yeah, well, that's not our problem.
Should have managed the time better. Yeah,
exactly.
Shit.
But you know, when you're making stuff like this, people are like, yeah, you know,
whatever.
Let's build that shit. Let's get it done.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, there is that mentality, and that is cool. You know, that is what's really neat about that community. So, when you completed the process and you completed the edit and all that, then you entered it into some film fests.
Yeah,
like that?
yeah. We submitted it to, I guess, about, you know, we did our research. We don't have money. When you submit it to a film festival, you have to pay an entry fee.
Yeah.
And so instead of going to, you know, Sundance and Tribeca and, you know, all these big fancy ones that I just knew, that's not our audience.
Yeah.
You know, we really did our research, looked at hundreds of movie festivals. I mean, there's a movie festival, you know, in every neighborhood, village, state, country, you name it, all over the world. But we really, you know, really handpicked. I mean, just out of economics, we could not submit to every film festival out there. It's just, it would bankrupt us, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's another part of filmmaking, as you understand. It's like, once the film's done, as a producer, as, you know, before, as an actor, once I wrapped, I was wrapped.
Yeah.
I never heard, you know, I mean, they might let me know that the film's done, or there's a premiere, or whatever, this and that and the other thing, but I really was not included in, you know, a lot of the stuff afterwards. And so when me and Eric produced this film, which is the first time either of us have done it, the amount of time and money that goes in afterwards is twice as much than the making of the project.
Yeah.
Now, kind of like recording a song, what do you do with it? Well, people are going to hear it, or if you paint a picture, you've got to put a frame on it.
Yep.
You got to get a gallery. You got to put it on the wall. Then you got to invite people. You're like, well, I'm just the artist. I just paint. It's like, well, then it's going to fucking sit on a shelf.
Right.
You know, to really get it out there like you would a band, you got to take it on tour. We've taken the movie around to Chicago and New York. It's played New York twice. It's won 3 awards so far. And
Awesome.
We've got
Hell yeah.
another dozen film festivals coming up this fall.
Nice.
You know, all over the
Yeah.
world. And it seems to resonate with people. And I think more than just your basic horror, black metal, comedy, horror, real estate movie. It doesn't. Yeah. I think people are kind of digging a little deeper on it, which is really gratifying because there is so much subtext about bullying and about workplace depression and about
it covers
dreaming big. It's and I didn't play it that way. It was written that way, and that connected with me. I didn't know how I had met this kid who had wrote the script. I'd met him a couple times, but it's like, how did you know me? How did you know that I am that lonely, innocent, angry kid, who just dreams of doing something different? How do you know that? He just kind of got lucky, and I got lucky with it.
Yeah.
And so...
And it's always funny to me to see somebody the darker, summoner person, but then have these deep thoughts and feelings, and be not just that rah, there's also like I said, underlying subtext and things that are being presented in there that make you think more about,
Yeah, you want him to succeed, but it's really funny when he doesn't.
Yeah.
And I can really relate to just trying different stuff. I mean, the amount of things, for the 5 things or 10 things that people remember about me, or will be remembered about me, there's 50 things, 500 things actually that really went down in flames.
Yeah.
And I think about that stuff and I just go, God, if they only knew how many times that I tripped over my own fucking feet, or fucked something up or tried and failed, whether it's tap dancing, all these things. I just go, I'm going to be a tap dancer.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a scuba diver. All these things, it just didn't work out. And I think the Summoner is, I play into it. It plays into me. I don't play into it. It plays into me.
Yeah. No, that's rad. So then what is the process now of getting the budget, the funding for making this full length? Because you said it's going to be turned into a full length.
Yeah, right after our first film festival in Chicago, I was in contact with a movie studio. And they were interested in hearing more about the full-length feature. Because the thing that is the common response, which is blowing my mind, is that everybody who sees it goes, well, what's next? I want to see more of that guy.
Yeah.
What's he going to do next? How does this play out? And we kind of knew that, when we started to kind of edit the film together, we're kind of like, wow, this is kind of working,
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, there's a little stinger that was kind of our challenge to ourselves, that hey, we're going to put this at the end of the movie. If you go through all the way through the credits, there's a little stinger at the end.
Yeah.
And that is to was kind of to encourage us, don't leave it here.
Yeah.
Don't leave it here. There's more stories to be told. There's a bigger Summoner universe than what you see in this little 15-minute film. And once we included that in the film, we were like, okay, now we really have to do stuff. We really have to see about either doing another short ourselves, doing a full-length movie. We had Joseph, the writer of the short, we had him working on the full-length script before the movie was out, before the short was out. We're like, I think this is going to take off. You should probably have a script ready to go.
Yeah, because I was actually just going to ask
the
that.
Script. As soon as they asked for the script, boom, here's the script.
Yeah.
And they were like...
So it's done. That script is done. Okay.
We planned this as a dream. As if you do a 7-inch record and you go, we got a couple good songs, but if people like this, they're going to want an album.
Right.
So instead of just sitting and playing these 3 songs, why don't we write that album just in case we want to be ready? And boy, I pushed everybody. I was like, guys, if somebody, is interested, we better be ready to jump. The first festival I went to, I had a lookbook and I had the script.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, anybody said, hey, this was pretty good. What else you got? Boom. Here's what we got.
Yeah.
And they were like, wow, you're fucking, you're confident.
You're ready.
And I'm ready. You know what I mean? Like you got to strike while the iron's hot, because people just, immediately go into something else.
Like this day more than any.
People are so distracted and they're just like, I need a movie today. What you got? Great. Let's green like that.
Yeah. Hold on, I'll get it in a week. Like,
nope, it's
London
done.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I had to stay in people's faces, and I had to have something ready to go. And so that's how we, when we played in New York, and the next day we spent all day in this little bed in Airbnb, like working with this new producer. Awesome. About how to, so we've got this guy named Josh Goldblum, who's he's the curator of the Cinepocalypse Film Festival in Chicago, and he's a mover and a shaker, and we brought him on to produce the film with us because everybody has their strengths.
Absolutely,
and it's like we knew that we needed somebody who was qualified to
the business aspect,
to do the business aspect of it, exactly, to work with the financing and work with these companies that you have relationships with. Mm-hmm. I've got relationships with casting,
with the creative side,
with the casting and the creative side. Eric Basio, the director, is the technical guy.
Yep.
That is, it's he handles that stuff, and Joseph is the writer. And then with a business guy, it's like a band where you've got like 4 people who have different superpowers.
Yeah.
And each person brings something that is necessary. There's probably other spots that will need to be filled out as well.
Yeah.
But we had the script, we had the lookbook, and we had Eric and a couple and me, and then we quickly had some people get some star power actors get attached to it.
Nice.
And that is what drove the whole thing to the next level, which is getting funding, which is what we're actually today. On the East Coast, there's a meeting going on.
Nice. Hell yeah.
In a couple hours.
Cool.
Which is
I'm glad
we're doing this today, because otherwise I'd be freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
I'm really glad. This really is very nice to like not
take your mind off it.
Take my mind off it, because at a certain point, you understand things are going to go the way that they're going to go.
Just let it go.
And as much as it's a fairy tale that things are moving so fast, and this is all going to get fast tracked, and we're going to be shooting, by December.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah,
that's maybe
it's rare.
Maybe it's rare.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I try to keep everybody pumped up. I try to to keep
exactly stay positive about
it. But there's things that are out of my hands. And I have to stay focused on the minutia of my daily stuff. Which is
that's good. That's one thing I struggle with, and just in program stuff, but like talking to sponsor about like, so how do I just let it go? Because I always want to go, I'll figure it out, instead of just going, here it is. It's going to be what it is.
There's so much stuff that's just out of your control.
Yeah.
And, I'm not great at it. This is another thing that I'm working on, is to, realize that it's letting go of expectations. Do the work, but man, the expectations, you just have to step aside.
Yep.
There's a million reasons why something doesn't happen, and you can't take it personally, and it's not because you're not good.
Right. Yeah.
And I think those are the two things that I immediately go to, because those are what I'm programmed from being, as a kid.
Yeah, and I think like when you're doing something creative, you are putting yourself in a vulnerable position, and then you can easily be open to like, oh, it means I'm not good. It's like, it doesn't mean any of that. It just means that you just happen to not be in the right spot at the right time, and this person isn't doing this and doing this. Now, there are some cases where maybe, like, you know, when we go try and do this drum thing, you'll see I'm not good. So I probably shouldn't follow that. But,
Well,
but,
never, you know, I didn't start out, I mean, God, you know, listen to the first track on my record. You go, you shouldn't, you know what? You should try something else. I will never tell somebody not to pursue something because you're not natural at it. I'm not natural at anything either. It just takes, you know, what is that, 10,000 hours to be an expert? It takes me 20,000 hours. I mean, and that's just to be decent. That's just not to get laughed out of a room. You know? I mean, there's no magic to it in my life except hard work. And I mean, my hands are trash, you know. I mean, I still practice
just going after
you know, the amount of effort that I put into like a one-line audition, you would just be like, really? That's kind of overkill. And I'm like, and I didn't get it. And you'd be like, wow, what a waste of time. And I'll be like, but there's something about it. If you go and you're not great at something, but you got a little kick out of it, did something for you. There's plenty of stuff that I try that I'm not good at that just doesn't excite me either.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I wanted to ride horses so fucking bad. I wanted to be a cowboy. And I got a gig at Medieval Times riding a horse. I was the king at Medieval Times, and I thought, this is my new job, and I'm going to learn how to ride horses, and I love horses, and I love animals. It's so exciting, and I can just think of my future of booking all these cowboy movies. These Western movies, you know?
You're already way out there.
And man, I can't fucking ride a horse. It just doesn't work for me, you know? And I tried so hard and it just didn't work for me. And led to many embarrassing performances. I mean, you're in front of 1,000 people and you cannot fucking get your horse to fucking cooperate. But there are other things that I do that I'm not good at that I still like that. I still like something about it. Seems like the door is cracked, and there are other things that just go, man, the door's never going to open. You're just not the guy for that. You know, so don't give up just because you're not good at something. You know, I'm proof that never stopped me.
You know? That's awesome. I was thinking one time I heard that guy Mark Cuban or whatever, that billionaire guy that owns the Dallas Mavericks. He said this thing that was, it always stuck with me. He said, don't follow your dreams, follow your efforts. And that was like, oh, it's so simply put, but it's like, if you just have this pipe dream out there that you never did anything towards, how's that ever going to come true? But if you put the effort in of playing drums over and over and over, if you put the effort in of doing acting for your one-line audition, you put that effort, you keep doing that effort, eventually things pay off with that effort. You know, it's like, and eventually, like, that effort will.
Well, if it doesn't pay off, at least you get a little better. You know, at least I know 60% of the time that I did a good job instead of always being, you know, I got to please myself. I got to know that they didn't like it. It wasn't because I fucked up. I just wasn't the right guy for it. You know, instead of just being like, well, I kind of botched it. I haven't botched anything in 20 years. I might not be the right guy for the gig and I might not get the gig, but it's not because, you know, I was sloppy or not prepared or I didn't get enough sleep. It's like I always come in guns blazing, and that gives me, I sleep okay at night, you know, with that, knowing I did my best. If I didn't get it, fuck them. You know, wasn't the right guy for it, but it wasn't because I was like, you know, they don't sit there and go, God, you know, he was great, but he's a fuck up. You know,
he didn't really put the effort
into it. They just go, you know, I don't get stuff, or stuff doesn't happen for me, not because, I don't know, the better way to phrase it is, I know that I've done a good job. It may not be the right.
It's not
the right
for lack
drumming.
of trying.
It's not for lack of trying. You know, and that is where the effort comes in. You know, it's not the dream of being a movie star. It's the dream of putting good effort in to like doing something that I enjoy, and I enjoy acting. I'm going to try to, like, you know, be great at it
Yeah.
I think I'm great. That's not true. I don't think I'm fucking great. That's terrible to say. Or it's not terrible to say. It's just a lie to say. I think I'm okay, and I think I get better.
Yeah.
But I also think I'm more aware of like my strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
You know, like
that.
I can go out and play some like a little jazzy stuff on the drums. You know, and you'll be like, oh, that's okay. You know, it's kind of jazzy, you know, but get a real jazz guy. A Tasty Phil. Get a real jazz guy and you fucking blow me away.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm good at, that's what I should just kind of stick to. And as far as my range in drumming and my range in acting, you know, it used to be like, wow, I want to be this like full circle actor and drummer where I'm just good at everything.
Yeah.
I don't have 5 lifetimes to get good in everything. I've got one lifetime, and I've like, these are the roles that, you know, that seem to suit me, and these are the bands that seem to suit me. Anything else, you know, I'm probably setting myself up for a lot of struggle.
Yeah, exactly. Like knowing your strengths and the weaknesses, and like they said something, basically it's like better to be good at one specific thing than being the jack of all trades, because then you're sort of at a halfway decent at it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you can't be, my acting teacher told me this, she's like, you can't just be good. You can't just be great. You have to be exceptional. Yeah. Exceptional. And that blew my mind, because I'm like, hey, I'm doing good. That's what I kind of meant about the great thing. Hey, I did a great audition. And she's like, well, were you exceptional? And I'm like, oh, wow. She's like, the exceptional person got it. Yeah. You know, because, and I'm like, shit. You know, wow, that was a wake up call. You know, there's so much competition out here, you know. But also, you know, I want to say with you is that, like, as much as I say, like, you know, I'm good at these couple things, it's like you also kind of don't know what you're good at until you actually are forced into a different, you know, a different role, you know. It's like if you know, me at my age, feeling old and slow, and then joining a black metal band and playing blast beats, playing faster than I ever did, was something that was like, I can't do it. Oh, I can do it.
Oh shit.
Shit. It took me so much effort and practice, but I could do it. Doing comedy is not what I'm known for at all. You know, I am not known for doing comedy. I'm you know, I'm known for being the bad guy or being the creepy corner. I'm, you know, not known for being funny, but when the opportunity presents itself, I say yes, because you never know. You gotta swing. You gotta take a swing at that, and you do find like, okay, that's not my thing. But sometimes you go, oh,
yeah. And sometimes like that darker, serious person in comedic situations is what's so hilarious. Like that, like with the Sumner guy, it's like, this hell guy, and then he's in these situations that are just awkward and hilarious. It makes it funnier.
Yeah, you know, somebody like, said that, you know, it was like deadpan, and I was like, deadpan, how do I even, and I was, it's just, he has no self-realization. Yeah. He's like, I'm awesome. Yeah. You know, and he doesn't realize that he's so out of his league. He has no idea what he's doing. And it wasn't like I was intentionally playing it a certain way. It just was like, he's trying his best. Like if I go out and try to play jazz, I'm going to try to do this kind of jazz affectation. You know, Sumner was kind of, it seems like his brain was developed on TV and like podcasts and commercials and stuff like that, as where most of us kind of learn how to, you know, assimilate into society in different roles is by like what we see on TV.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. I think of like, because I love that kind of humor with Leslie Nielsen, like in
Naked Gun.
Yeah, and it's just
great.
But he's dead serious in these situations and so awful at it, and that is what's so funny.
That you know, that's terrific. Yeah, and
that's kind of like what's going on with the Sumner is like he's behind the groove. Like everyone is kind of aware more than he is that he's just not meant to be in this situation. But he's going for it anyway. Like, you know, being a Sumner and being a real estate agent is kind of like what?
Yeah,
You know?
he's a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
But he doesn't realize he's got these big fucking horns and he's knocking over shit.
Yeah.
But in his heart of hearts, he does have a heart. He doesn't have a soul. He doesn't have a. But in his, I think deep down he thinks that helping people will make him happy.
Yeah.
Will cure him of this loneliness and this this rut that he's in.
Yeah.
Is like putting people in houses makes them happy. I've seen it on TV. This is how I imagine. His thought process is, wow, that's something. I'm so self-absorbed as this black metal drummer. What could I do to? Oh, how about I help people? I mean, you've heard that in the program. You want to get out of yourself, speak to someone else.
Yeah.
Find out what's going on in
others.
somebody else. Help others. And so I think, it's all kind of a metaphor for like, wow, when I'm really in a rut, what have I ever been told? What wisdom have I ever been told is to like go out and be of service.
Yeah. So then, okay. So the big next step is meeting today.
Yeah.
Get the funding. Let's get this thing into feature length. Are you going to like release that short, or is that going to stay kind of held until you build, until you get funding for the feature length, and then like, will people be able to see that short, or is
right now it's exclusively at festivals.
Okay.
And hopefully, the cast and crew hasn't even seen it.
Okay.
It's only been,
so
you are very, very exclusive. Yeah, the cast and crew hasn't even seen it. There's been a lot of, why the cast and crew hasn't seen it is because if you show it to them and then you do a premiere, they won't show up.
Oh, yeah.
So you really want, we want a packed house. So we
Yeah.
really have been very tight with, and I hope you'll show up.
Yeah.
So we've been pretty tight with it. And then it goes back into like the festival season, which is next month.
Okay.
The next screening that we have is at the Sin City Film Festival in Las Vegas, which is in September. Nice. And then hopefully there'll be an LA festival for us. And then there's a couple things that really pop like worldwide, like more towards Halloween, of course, for the horror stuff.
Perfect.
And so until then, we've kept it under wraps. We did get an offer to immediately put it on a streaming service, but we don't want to spoil it that way. I mean, it's really great that you enjoyed it watching it by yourself on your computer at home. But I've seen it twice in a theater. Yeah, and it's fun. Really fucking great.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
Really fucking great.
Because I was cracking up on myself, but even when other people are laughing, it creates more of this good environment and atmosphere to do that.
And I get to go to the festivals, and I go in character.
Yeah.
I wear the corpse paint and I go as the summoner and I introduce the film and I do a little bit of stand up and I have a little really routine. Good. Yeah. And it really gets people revved up, and then I get to like interact, with everybody as the summoner, and it's a little sideshow. It's a little,
that's a lot of fun.
But I really go back to what stokes me out. Yeah. Cool. Is a bored guy doing a bored quiet guy doing a Q&A and talking about the lenses that he used, or a really wild performance by a character from the film. Yeah. And like you don't have a lot of time these days to fucking make an impression, so go big. Yeah. And so when the movie plays, the summoner is there, and he fucking is yelling and screaming and falling over shit, and it's like the Three Stooges,
Yeah. Dude, I love it. And the audience has to love that.
Yeah. Well, it seems to have. I mean, that seems to have really lit the fuse on all this stuff. Yeah. Because I'm there to talk about the movie. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So do you have a site that they could see like what film festivals it'll be in?
Yeah, they can go to brutalrealtyfilm.com. Okay. And that's the official website, and you can see the trailer. We do have the trailer is out. People can see the trailer.
Saw that too.
Yeah, the trailer's out. And also Brutal Realty Film on Facebook, and then Instagram and Twitter, and then they can always look London May up on any of the social media stuff. Cause
Yeah.
I mean, I know, gosh, people just must be so done with Brutal Realty, because it's like every day there's something new coming out with the movie, and it's just like this endless chain of Brutal Realty stuff. But
well, I'll keep that chain going. I'll put some links on there when we put this up.
Just, you know, I hate to keep beating people over the head about it, but if people don't know that it's playing in their town, I did this interview with a guy in Brooklyn a couple weeks ago, and he's like, well, when's your movie playing Brooklyn? I was like, we played Brooklyn twice. Yeah. He's like, I didn't know. And I'm like, well, that's the reason why I really got it. Yeah. You know, I really got to get out there and tell, because if people want to see it and people seem excited to see it, is that it's probably going to play close to them, but it's going to be at one of these film festivals. And the chance for them to go and see other cool stuff, you know, is also, it's kind of like, well, come for us, but stay for the other stuff too. Yeah. Because they're going to see some other wicked stuff. I've seen some great stuff at festivals this year.
Nice. Awesome. Well, dude, thanks for coming on the Bathroom Break podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can't wait to see the full-length version.
Thanks, man. Thanks very much.
Good stuff.